My name is Lauren King, and 3 weeks ago, I found out my mom isn't dead. She changed her name, moved 2 hours away, and started a new family. I'm 27, live in Cincinnati, and work as an occupational therapist at a rehab hospital. I'm the practical friend, the one with the label maker, the extra charger, the "did you eat today?" texts. My mom died when I was 8. That's the word I grew up with. There was no funeral, just a memorial service at our church, and a photo on a small table with a vase of supermarket lilies. People brought casseroles. My dad cried once, red-eyed in the kitchen, then switched into a reliable, gentle autopilot. He braided my hair badly and learned the difference between ballet shoes and jazz shoes and signed every permission slip the day it came home. If you had asked me to describe my family in one sentence, I would have said, it's me and my dad against the world. I'm engaged to a guy named Sean who works in IT and believes that any problem can be solved with a spreadsheet. We were building a simple family tree to display at our fall wedding, photos, names, dates for the little how we got here table. My side always felt thin. I have a few prints of my mom, her in cutoffs holding a sparkler, her in a baseball cap on a lake, her laughing at something just out of frame. I can still hear her laugh. I can still remember the way she smelled like warm laundry and cinnamon gum. The official story, the one I learned to repeat without thinking, was that she'd been in a car accident coming back from visiting her sister. Instant, my dad said. She didn't feel a thing. I never saw a police report. I never asked for one. Sean's sister bought us DNA kits because she thought it would be cool to print a heritage chart to set next to the photos. I swabbed, mailed, forgot. It came back on a Tuesday I will never forget, even if I live to be 100. I opened the app on my lunch break in the hospital cafeteria. There were the fun percentages. There were second cousins I didn't recognize. And at the very top, under close family, 99.9% match, was a profile named M. Lane. The note under it said, plainly, parent/child, high confidence. My fork clinked against my tray so loudly that a patient at the next table turned. I clicked. There was no photo, just a location, Dayton, Ohio. 45 miles up the highway. I told myself it had to be a glitch. I told myself maybe my father had some relative I didn't know about. I told myself a lot of things in the 5 minutes it took me to walk to the stairwell and sit on the concrete step with my hands shaking. My heart felt like a bird in a paper bag. That night I didn't say anything to my dad. I told Sean everything. He pulled his laptop like it was a first aid kit. People reuse old emails, he said. Try those in social media search bars. We tried combinations, M, Lane plus Dayton, M, plus Lane, Maggie Lane, Megan, Mary. On Instagram, a public PDA account had tagged a Margaret Lane in a photo for field day volunteers. The woman was in the back row in a neon t-shirt, hair in a ponytail, mouth open mid-laugh. She looked like my mother would look at 50, the same half-moon eyebrows, the same tiny cleft in the chin I cover with makeup in every photo. The room tilted. Sean put a hand on my shoulder and said, very quietly, Lore, I think that's her. I took screenshots like I was afraid the internet would change its mind. For 36 hours, I floated. I went to work and helped a teen practice brushing his teeth one-handed. I showed a new stroke patient how to put on socks with a long-handled tool. I smiled. Underneath, my thoughts spun. If she's alive, where has she been? Did Dad know? Why did he tell me she died? Do I have siblings? Did she ever think about me on my birthdays when I blew out candles and wished for her to walk through the door? I finally told my dad on Thursday after dinner. We were at his kitchen table, the one I did homework at, the one with a gouge from when I tried to cut a bagel with a paring knife at 11. Dad, I said, I need to show you something. I put my phone between us and pulled up the profile. He stared at the screen like it was a word in a language he used to speak and couldn't quite remember. He put his hand on the table and made that fist he makes when he's trying not to show emotion. Then he said, let me get my glasses. He put them on, looked again, and then he did something I didn't expect. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. I always knew this might happen one day, he said. I just hoped. I don't know what I hoped. Is Mom alive? I asked. My voice sounded like a stranger's. Please tell me the truth. He nodded. A small, broken nod. He didn't try to soften it. He didn't blame the test. He didn't reach for a different story. He said, yes. It was like the floor I'd been standing on my entire life turned out to be a rug. Why would you tell me she died? I said. I wasn't yelling. I was too tired to yell. Why did you let me grieve her? He put his elbows on the table and covered his face with his hands. For a long minute, the only sound in the room was the refrigerator making a little clicking noise it makes when the ice maker cycles. Because I was angry, he said finally. Because I was scared. Because I didn't know how to explain leaving to an 8-year-old without making you hate her, or me, or both. It felt kinder to have one sharp pain than a slow bleed. It was a terrible choice. I have thought about it every day. I had imagined a lot of scenarios. That he didn't know. That she had faked her own death for some dramatic, unbelievable reason. I had not prepared for the simplicity of this one. 2 very human adults made a mess. One ran. One told a lie that hardened into my whole reality. Where did she go? I asked. He told me my mom was 21 when she had me and 29 when she left. He said their marriage had been a tangle of good and bad, love, stress, money, her restlessness, his steadiness that sometimes felt like control. After I was born, she struggled. He didn't have the words postpartum depression then. He said she would disappear into herself for days, then overcorrect and volunteer for everything, and then, one late September morning, she packed a duffel bag in the time it took him to take out the trash. She left a note that said, "I'm sorry. I can't be who you need." She called once a month later from a number that didn't work again. A year after that, she sent a postcard with just a drawing of a lake and the words, "Tell her I love her. Tell her I'm okay." He said he called the return address. It was a motel. She was gone. Did you know she was in Dayton? I asked. He shook his head. I knew she wasn't dead, he said. That's all I knew. I went home and lay in bed and tried to line up the old story with the new one like 2 transparencies on an overhead projector. The church memorial. The lilies. The casseroles. The empty casket I didn't know was empty. My dad's one cry. Me at 9, in a leotard, telling another girl, "My mom is in heaven." Somewhere, my mom was buying coffee and joining the PDA. The next morning, I emailed the Lane profile through the DNA app. The message box was small. I erased and retyped 4 times. What I finally sent said, "Hi, my name is Lauren. The test says we're closely related. I don't want to assume anything you're not ready to share. If you are who I think you are, I'm here. I just want the truth." She wrote back in 15 minutes. Lauren, just my name. Then, I have typed 15 versions of this message. You deserve me saying it the brave way. I am your mother. I'm Margaret now. I live in Dayton. I never stopped loving you. I thought I had forfeited the right to say it out loud. We met at a coffee shop off the highway that all the soccer teams use on Saturdays. It was neutral ground, fluorescent lights, faint smell of cinnamon, constant noise, so neither of us could run or make it sacred. She arrived in a cardigan and jeans, hair streaked with gray, hands shaking. I recognized my own nervous habit in the way she tapped the lid of her cup. Up close, there was no doubt. The shape of the eyes, the stubborn chin, the little freckle near the right temple. She smiled and cried all at once. "You look like you," she said, and we both laughed because it was nonsense and exactly true. She told me she'd changed her name legally to her middle name and her grandmother's maiden name. She'd worked at a daycare and then at a community center. She married a man named Tom, a mechanic with a kind face and a dad joke for every occasion. She has 2 kids, Noah, 14, who plays baseball, and June, 11, who loves sloths and glitter. She did not, she said, tell them about me. I kept waiting for the right time, she said. Time has a way of passing without permission. Did you know Dad told me you died? I asked. She winced. No. I told myself he probably told you I left. That you would hate me, but know I existed. Why did you leave? I asked. I needed to hear it from her. She looked down at her hands. I was not okay, she said. After you were born, my brain wasn't my brain. I was afraid of everything and nothing. Your dad was steady and good, and I felt like a kite he was trying to hold in a hurricane. I made ugly choices. I drank too much. I flirted with the idea of disappearing every day. And then one day I did it. I told myself it would be better for you to have one good parent than 2 broken ones. I told myself I would ruin you if I stayed. She wiped her eyes. I also told myself I would come back when I got it together. When became if. If became 10 years. Shame is a country with bad maps. I believed her, and I didn't, both at once. That's the honest version. I believed she had been drowning and made the only choice she could see through the water. I also couldn't forgive the girl I had been for learning to set the table by herself, while her mom learned how to be a person in another city. Two things can be true and still hurt. We talked for an hour. She had a stack of old photos in a Ziploc bag, me at 2 with cake on my cheeks, her holding me in a pool, a Polaroid of my dad on a fishing pier with a fish that was not as big as his grin. She said she kept them in a shoebox in her closet and took them out on my birthday every year. I wanted to ask why she never took me out of the shoebox too. I didn't. Not that day. When I got home, my dad was sitting on the porch with a shoebox of his own. He handed it to me without a speech. Inside were letters with my mom's handwriting, postcards from cities, notes sent to our old address and forwarded a few times and then stamped, returned to sender. Some were unopened. I couldn't read them then, he said. I didn't want you to grow up with a ghost knocking on the door every few months. I thought I was protecting you. I see now I was protecting myself. That was the second twist I didn't expect. Both of my parents had kept pieces of me in boxes. They'd built different stories around the same loss. Both of them had chosen wrong and right in the same breath. The moral dilemma hit me in the most ordinary places. The grocery store, the shower, the left turn onto my street. Do I tell my mom's kids I exist? Do I invite my mom to my wedding? Do I forgive my dad for deciding to be the sole author of my childhood? Do I forgive my mom for erasing herself from it? Here's what I did for anyone who needs a blueprint that isn't neat. I asked both of them for counseling separately, and then with me. My dad said yes immediately and found a grief counselor through our church who didn't flinch at complicated truths. My mom hesitated and then said yes, too, and found someone in Dayton. I told my mom I wouldn't be her secret. She told Tom that night. He wrote me an email the next day introducing himself, kind and awkward and human. I would like to meet you when you're ready, he wrote. I'm sorry for the time you lost. We decided to start small. I met my half-siblings at a park, as Lauren, my friend from Cincinnati, so they could ease into a world that had just shifted. We watched June show me her cartwheel, very enthusiastic, medium straight legs. Noah asked me about the Reds. I did not claim them with words. I just sat in their weather and let them be people. 2 weeks later, my mom told them the truth with Tom in the room. They asked kid questions, do we get to have 2 Thanksgivings now? And one big one. Were we enough? My mom cried. I did too, quietly behind my sunglasses. My dad came to the next therapy session with a folder. Inside were 3 documents: the church memorial program, the note my mom left, and a new letter he had written me. He read it out loud. It said, in summary, I made a terrible decision with the information and emotions I had at the time. I can't undo it. I can only do better now. I believed him. Forgiveness didn't land like a movie swelling into strings. It arrived like a quiet morning where you notice you slept through the night. As for the wedding, I decided not to put a family tree on the table. I put blank note cards instead and a sign that said, tell us a story you love about love. People wrote about how their grandpa made pancakes every Sunday, how their friend drove 4 hours to jump a dead battery, how their mom never let anyone eat alone. My mom came to the ceremony and sat in the 3rd row next to Tom. My dad walked me down the aisle. At the reception, my mom and dad stood near each other and talked about the time my dad tried to make lasagna and forgot to boil the noodles. They laughed. It sounded like 2 people who had put down heavy things and were surprised by the sound of their own voices. I know some people want me to be angry forever or to cut someone off to make the lesson land. I am angry sometimes, and then I'm not, and then I am again when I remember 3rd grade me telling a teacher I didn't have a mom to invite to muffins with mom. But here's what I keep thinking. Grief taught me to love fiercely. Truth is teaching me to love complexly. I can't change the story I was given, but I can choose how it ends. If you are a kid who is told a simple story and have learned the complicated version later, I'm sorry. It's disorienting. It's like switching on a light in a room you could navigate in the dark. You'll stub your toe on furniture you didn't know was there. You'll also find windows. My name is Lauren. My mom wasn't dead. She was Margaret in Dayton, building a life that happened to include 2 kids who now know my name. My dad wasn't a liar in the cartoon sense. He was a father who made a decision I wish he hadn't, and is willing to do the hard work of owning it. I don't have a neat bow for this gift bag of a story. I have coffee dates and therapy bills and group texts that include a mechanic who calls himself Bonus Tom. I have a wedding photo where my parents are in the same frame, not as a couple but as 2 people who loved me enough to keep showing up when the script broke. 3 weeks ago, I found out my mom wasn't dead. Today I'm learning how to be someone with 2 parents, 3 new relatives, and a heart that can hold more than one truth at a time. It's not the ending I expected. It feels like a beginning.